first up from our pitches here is Paul from a company that everyone has heard from, Stripe. Paul, it's always a pleasure to have you. I'm going to step out of your way and let you take it from here.
All right, thank you, David, and hello, everyone. Okay, if you could just, I need to share my screen, David, so if you could just pitch that up in StreamYard, there we go. And if I click slideshow, you should be able to see things. All right, so Stripe and Redwood provider pitch. So first of all, hello, my name is Paul. I'm a developer advocate at Stripe, and I'm based in Amsterdam, where I'm right now. But more importantly, I want to tell you a little bit more about Stripe. And I particularly want to tell you about, just in case you don't know, like what is Stripe, tell you like why you would want to use Stripe, and more importantly, how you should use Stripe. So let's start with the most important question, and also this is probably my favorite slide I've ever made, just what? What is Stripe? Stripe is a financial infrastructure company. Now, what that basically means is that we do a ton of stuff in the fintech space, but you probably know us best for our payment processing. And stats and stuff on the left-hand side here, we operate in a ton of countries. But more importantly, if you work with Stripe, that means you can accept payments from pretty much anywhere in the world, which is really cool. Big API, big on software, big on developer experience. Probably heard of us. If not, your credit card certainly has. I think most credit cards in the US and otherwise kind of tend to go for our systems at some point or another, which is pretty cool. But why Stripe? Why would you want to work with us? Well, for starters, a lot of people who are going to be here are like startup founders or people who are working on a startup or building something, obviously with Redwood. And the real drive of the real bonus thing for Stripe is like, why would you try to reinvent the wheel when it comes to payments? So payments is difficult, really difficult. It's hard. If it was easy, Stripe wouldn't exist. And it's always evolving as well. So in this slide, I just show that you're probably familiar with the card networks on the left. But these days, you always have to deal with wallets in the middle, so your Apple Pays and your Google Pays, but also your local payment methods. Like on the right here, I'm in Amsterdam, so Ideal is the payment method that I would choose to use, which is only available in the Netherlands. And we found in research that if you make sure that local payment methods are available to your customers, you get a higher conversion rate, so more money in the bank. Always very useful. Also, Stripe helps you a lot with some of the darker sides of the internet, which is fraud, declines, and disputes. If you've never encountered these before, consider yourself very lucky. I hope you never have to, because the internet has got some very bad people on it, and fraud does happen. And Stripe is very, very good at stopping this from happening. We have something called Radar, which is basically a machine learning powered network which detects if a charge going through your Stripe account is actually like a real charge made by a real customer, or if it's something which should probably be blocked. And so yeah, let's kind of sum it up. What does Stripe do? Stripe basically turns code into money. The whole idea is that leave the financial parts of like accepting payments to Stripe and focus more on something that you should be doing, like saving the world or building your awesome startup on Redwood. But I can almost hear you furiously typing, but Paul, what happens if I live in a country that Stripe does not support? And I would say, yeah, well, you got me there. But oh my God, it's Stripe Atlas with a steel chair. That's right. We've actually thought of this problem. We have something called Stripe Atlas, which is a service that we provide where you can basically, for the low fee, about $500, you can incorporate a company in the state of Delaware, we'll open up a bank account for you, and more importantly, we get you a Stripe account that you can use to build your company. So that's the what and the why, but now more importantly, the how. Like, how do you actually get started using Stripe? Well, once you have your Stripe account, we've opened it up. By far, the easiest way to get started is something called payment links. So you can, as simple as just putting it in a link, as you see at the top here, this is just a link to a website. At the bottom here, we've got the Stripe button, which you can also very easily put into your web page. If you click on that button, you get sent to Stripe's checkout page, which you see here. And this is kind of super customizable. This can be on your own domain as well. It gives all the information your customer needs, but more importantly, it lets you collect stuff like email address or like name on card, and lets them pick the payment method as well they want to use. In this example, for instance, we have like the Cash App or Klarna you can pick from. And all of this is kind of just taken care for you. And again, so you can just focus on what's more important. But this is a Redwood talk, this is a Redwood pitch, so I wouldn't, obviously the best way to integrate with Stripe is using the brand new Redwood JS Stripe plugin. So this is being developed by a wonderful developer in South Africa named Christine. We've been sponsoring this open source project for a while now, and I'm very happy to say that we're very, very close to a V1 release, which will actually be coming, like, I think as early as next week. This is all you need basically to get started on Stripe. You just plug in your API keys into this thing, and it just does all the work for you and get you set up with Redwood. So highly recommend you check this out if you haven't already. It's just RedwoodJS-Stripe on GitHub, completely open source. check out some issues there, create a new issue, maybe contribute if you'd like. And yeah, that is Stripe in a very short nutshell. And I would love to take some questions from our panelists.
Paul, well done. All right, we're bringing up our panelists here. And before we go around and get some responses there, I wanted to mention, I forgot one important thing. We have a fourth panelist, and that's you, our live stream audience. We're watching chat, and if you have any questions or comments, we'll try to highlight some of those if we have time for each response, but then also Paul's sticking around and he could answer your questions after this time is gone. So let's go around, let's go in reverse order this time. So Elena, what do you think? What do you think about this Stripe thing that Paul's talking about?
Well, I loved your pitch, first of all. I thought great energy, love the picture of the fighters or whatever. I have a question, which is, I know Stripe has lots of like really big customers, and also, you know, you're pitching to startups and even just individual developers trying to use Stripe to make money on side projects. How do you think about like developer support and like working with very small customers versus very large customers, and like, you know, how do you differentiate there?
Well, so short answer is we don't really differentiate. We kind of treat everyone equally in that respect. We are very much a developers first company. So when it comes to like the support systems that we have, we very much try to go the extra mile. Like, have you ever seen the Stripe API docs? Or I would say, tooting my own horn here, pretty good. We also have a very active Discord server where you can actually go and ask questions to actual Stripe engineers who will then try to help you out. If you just type Stripe developers into Google, you'll probably find the Discord server. It's free for everyone. And while larger users might get like an account manager attached to them, the point is that we try to make sure everyone gets treated equally and gets the same level of attention, particularly when it comes to building or starting off your Stripe integration. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Robin, how about you? Do you think Stripe is something you might use in your product?
I think so. It seemed easy to use. One of the questions I have is, you know, any of this payment processing stuff is a thing that most developers will not have had familiarity with until they've tried. And there's different approaches that all sound like big, scary things, you know, like merchant of record versus credit processing. Could you talk about some of the advantages of Stripe's approach versus the other things in that space?
Well, so the whole point of Stripe is that we kind of abstract that problem away from you. So a lot of like if you go like for a direct integration with a bank, for instance, you would get something called a merchant account, which lets you do something very similar to Stripe, but then you're on the hook for literally everything. And also compliance you're on the hook for as well. So the point of Stripe is really just this layer of abstraction between your business and the whole financial network that is, to be honest, held together with like spit and wishful thinking at this point. So we kind of help navigate that space so you don't have to worry about it. You obviously could get really deep into this and do it yourself, but I don't know if I recommend that. I mean, if it was easy to do, Stripe wouldn't exist.
Thanks, Paul. And Amy, how about you? So you're a contributor on the Redwood framework. What do you think of this Stripe thing?
Yeah, I love the fact that I don't have to worry about PCI compliance. That's super scary. And the fact that I can hand that off to somebody else is a major win. And the fact that I don't have to worry about, as you mentioned, wallets, all these different payment options that are cropping up. I don't have to update my code. I can offload all of that to Stripe. So the developer experience is absolutely fantastic. And the fact that there is a Redwood plugin coming out is even more exciting.
Yeah, very much. And Paul, there was a question about the Redwood plugin. If you could post a link maybe to the project and how to follow along in chat, that'd be very welcome. Paul, thank you. From the guy who said, I'll find someone else from Stripe to give the pitch. I'm glad that you let me nudge you into it. So welcome. All right.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Oh, it's always a pleasure.